Welcome to Heal the World Show podcast today. Pramelia Param with the Healing Institute. The Heal the World Show podcast is brought to you by the Healing Institute, and we are a virtual global hub of holistic practitioners, and we're out to heal the world. We want to give people hope. We want people to know that there are ways to be well and stay well while they're on their health journey, because we're all on a health journey. And we want to be letting people know about the Healing Institute and our amazing practitioners that we have that are part of the Healing Institute. You know, when they talk to their clients, they get to the root cause of what's going on with their client, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, whatever it is. They get to the root cause. So we don't deal with symptoms, we deal with what is actually happening for the client and find out what that is. And I have been studying and taking part of holistic healing for well over 20 years for myself personally. I'm really passionate about creating a proactive wellness society. And why is that? Well, the reason is because we had a tragedy in our family in that my mother passed away at age 61. She'd been healthy up till then, fairly healthy, and it was a big shock. So it was due to a medication that she had been on for well over 20 years, for a very long time, and it affected her kidneys. And not once did her doctor at the time tell her that, you know, a side effect of taking this medication could be kidney failure. So it wasn't only a tragedy that we lost her at such a young age. I was 5 months pregnant with my son. It was December 15th, so it was right before Christmas. And my children didn't get to know their grandmother. And I just really don't want that um, that to happen for anybody else. So that's why I called the Healing Institute an institute, because I'm really passionate about educating people about how they can be well. And so we have a theme every month on the Healing Institute podcast, the Heal the World Show podcast. And March is motivational March. That's spring forward. So today I am very, very excited to welcome my guest co-host, Elsa Johnson, and she is a transformational mindset coach. So guess what our talk about is today? It's going to be about mindset and how to be motivational and mindset. So Elsa, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are in the world. I'm on the west coast of Canada, so it's always good to know where everybody is.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be with you here today. And my name is Elsa Johnson. I am originally born and raised in Denmark. Currently, I find myself in Scottsdale, Arizona. So enjoying the beautiful spring weather in Arizona. It's, it doesn't get much better than right now in Arizona.
Wonderful. Well, we're so happy to have you. So, as a transformational mindset coach, tell us a little bit about your process or how you help your clients.
Sure. So, first of all, what does it really mean to be a transformational mindset coach, right? It
Mm-hmm.
is that point for people where we all have a mindset. And we always a lot of times hear about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And it's really that transformation between taking a fixed mindset and moving it into more of a growth mindset. And what that really means is helping you see other ways that you can look at your past history and put it into the future in a way that is actually helping move yourself forward and in a direction that to find more joy, be more productive, get more of those things that you really want in life. A lot of people feel like they go and they get healing, but they are not moving forward. That they have
Mm-hmm.
healed this space, and then it's now what? So for me, what's really important is that transformation from where you really are stuck right now to into something much more productive and much more fulfilling for yourself.
Absolutely. And oftentimes people will think that healing, whatever they're doing, whatever modality, and it definitely works, then that's it. And then and then well then other things pop up, and then so that's, then they're searching again for
Yes.
another modality, or another therapist, or another practitioner. So I love what you're doing, because you're actually taking them through that transition. They're getting the healing, and then they're realizing, they're part of the healing. I'm always telling my clients that it's you
Yeah.
and me. They always say, well, you've done this so well. And I'm like, well, no, actually, it was a team effort. We did it
Yeah.
together. But a lot of, we're not trained that. We haven't been trained that way. We've been, it's the medical model has always been, something happened, you went to the doctor fixed you. Well, we
Yeah.
know that's broken. We know that doesn't work. So yeah,
Yeah, no kidding.
we definitely have to shift people's paradigm around
Mm.
the healing and how they can heal, and definitely let people know that they're part of it. They're part of that. And I think what you're doing with teaching people, and incorporating the transformation, is really very, very helpful. Can you give us an example, perhaps, of one of your clients that you've worked with?
Sure, absolutely. So I wanted to just, before I do that, I want to speak a little bit into what you're talking about, because since it is spring and we are
Yes.
springing forward, right? I
Yes.
want to have people sort of have a visual, a thought about what does this really mean in practicality, right?
Hmm.
So think about spring. We all think about spring cleaning, right? And we clean out our house. So that's sort of like the healing that you do. You
Hmm.
clean out your mind, you clean out your soul, you clean out those old hurts. And then, but we all know, like, think about cleaning out your closet for spring, right? Very quickly you look back in there and say, holy moly, it's just as crowded as it was before, right? But what
Exactly.
have you, so the mindset part of that is, or the transformational part of that, is being very intentional about what you put back in the closet. That
Mm.
you don't start filling it up with that, yeah, oh, I haven't really changed the habit around that process, or that trauma that I've had, right? So that is what the transformation, to be very intentional about what do you fill the space with once you have gone through the healing.
I love that analogy. That's a perfect analogy. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So when I work with clients, and I had a client of mine who, she had a reasonably successful business, and when I talked to her and I said, she bought, we were talking about how could I support her, and she said, well, I really think it's more on my personal side. I think I got this whole business thing going, that this is good for me, and I'm okay with my business. And we started talking about her body image. She had her entire life had a struggle around her body image, feeling like she was overweight and been constantly told, you need to lose weight, for all the right reasons, health, because it was hard on her body. And as we were talking about it, I said, well, when you in your body, in your business, where you have to be visible, I said, you are holding yourself back
Ah,
when you are not completely in love with your body the way it is today. There is always this thought of saying, when I lose 10 pounds, when I can fit into this beautiful dress, I will get on the video and go on a podcast and talk about my business. But if you're not able to heal that relationship with the way it is today, you're holding yourself back in your business.
right.
And once we were able to help her, love where she was right now, looking forward to where she could be on her health journey, she showed up totally different in her business. And because of that, her results grew exponentially. She didn't have to go into a meeting being self-conscious and using half her brain power to think about, do I look okay? How will they judge me? She could come in there and just show her brilliance.
Exactly. Yes, and oftentimes, we don't realize that we're holding ourselves back. As you said, your client thought that she was great with her business, but and it's a subconscious thing. And of course, that's the work that I do with the subconscious. Is
Yeah.
some often we'll have those emotions that are stuck in the subconscious, but they're running the show. I call it. They're running the show anyway. So
Oh, they absolutely are. It is like, again, one of the ways that I work with my clients is a lot about metaphors and stories and everything, right? Just think about your telephone, right? It has a million apps on it, and they refresh in the background and drains your battery. That's your subconscious mind.
Yes.
It drains your battery. It constantly drains your battery, even though you're not even using that app.
You're not aware.
And that's what people have to think about, is like all that stuff there's back there thinking about, whether it's a problem that you encountered yesterday and it's still percolating back there saying, and then all of a sudden it pops up, but it's draining your battery from being focused and being in the moment and being here, like with me right here with you. As much as I am trying to be fully engaged, my brain is still going in the background thinking, oh, I got to send that email. I got to do this. I got to do that, right? So we just have to be, again, I come back to this word, very intentional.
Yes.
And
so definitely. And we have, we do have a million things that are going on in our brain. So it takes some practice to be focused, or bring ourselves back to be focused, and especially on how we want to change. Now, mindset to me was kind of, I've always thought that being a bit like you are sort of not determined necessarily, that might not be the right word, but focused, there's a good word, focused on what you want to do going forward. But I think it's more than that. It's more than just being focused.
Oh, absolutely. Mindset is the, it's the engine. It's the engine plus the software. It's like your computer and your software together, right? So it is really, how do you actually program that alter to focus at something, right? And if you think about it, it's like when they say a mindset is fixed, it is like you going around in that unupdated programming that you have in your brain. You're not allowing new thoughts to pop in and give you different perspectives. You're constantly going in that same track or groove or whatever you want to call it, because just going there around and around and around and nothing happens. It is not till something comes and interrupts you, like what happened with your mother, right? That all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, now my track got, there was this big boulder on my track, and saying, now what?
Exactly.
And if you are in a fixed mindset, then you just keep going up against that boulder constantly, and you are not getting around. Now you're stuck and you can't even go around your daily track. And people really get stuck in this, I can't do anything. I can't do anything. I can't do anything.
Yeah, and it holds them back, both in their personal life and in their business life, holding them back, thinking that they can't make any adjustments, or they, I've heard from many different people over the years, well, I am who I am. Like, yeah, well, that's all very well and good, but you could change that if you really want to. I just quickly want to say hello to Marie Piplovic. She's saying hello, ladies, and she's one of our practitioners on the website, and she's doing some new work with coaching women who are in midlife. So I'm thinking now, my mind is going, Elsa and Marie would be a good connection to chat. But Marie also does some wonderful conscious breathing. She's a conscious breath facilitator. And I've been very fortunate to be able to take part in some of her sessions. So, here, she's got a great question. How do you respond to those who rigidly defend the rigid mindset, especially when one person takes a different approach to allow and express a different thought? That's a great
Well,
question.
oh, absolutely. And thank you very much for that question. So she's a coach, so I think she already knows the answer, right? It's about being curious.
Hmm.
It's about being curious. Try to understand their perspective, because through a very again, I use the word over and over ad nauseum, intentional, through really questioning without trying to like take your own assumptions, put them in the back, sort of put them to side and just start questioning. Because by asking people good questions, it start making them say, well, how did you decide that? When did you decide that? What have influenced you to be at this fixed, rigid mindset? What would happen if you just turned that a half a degree? What would happen? Start being very curious about what makes people think, because we all know, especially in the coaching world, that when we have such a fixed mindset, we are typically doing that from a place of fear.
Yes.
Right? What
Absolutely.
happens if I walk out that door and this thing is going to fall on me? Well, what is going to happen? They're not going to ask that question behind it, like after, what happens after, right? They're more stuck in this saying, but this could happen or this could happen. Yeah, it could. But even if it did, what would the next step be? And I think that by being very curious and being focused on really understanding, people for the first time are being heard, hear themselves verbalize what that thinking is.
Absolutely. And giving them the opportunity to think outside the box, if we want to use that terminology. But you're
Mhm.
right. I'm so glad that you raised that, because when people are in sort of a rigid mindset, when you come up
Mhm.
against that as a coach or a practitioner, it is always due to fear. They're
Yeah.
afraid. They're afraid of something, and so
Mhm.
that has to be explored and also honored them. I mean, you're not going to, if somebody's got a very rigid opinion about something, you're not going to change their opinion. But I
Mhm.
love that you said be curious. I've always been curious my whole life. Got into trouble for being curious my whole life. But I'm always asking questions. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the main things that we need to teach in our schools, is
Yeah.
to ask, or in our society, is to ask questions. Be curious, find out what is going on. If something doesn't fit right with you, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even if something's not fitting right for you, there's a reason. So you need to find out what is that, but not
Yes.
as you're saying, as a coach, and certainly as a practitioner, we're not going to butt our heads against this person who's got this
Mhm.
very rigid opinion. But when you start to ask them questions about, well, what about this, or how did you come to that conclusion, or a lot of it is based on old belief systems,
Mhm.
and how they were raised, or what society said they should be like, and they don't know any other way. And I'm so glad that you raised that whole point around fear, because I truly believe that. So I hope that answered your question, Marie. It was a good question.
I, yeah, and I want to bring up one other point, which I think is extremely important for people to understand. That fear comes from somewhere, right? It's not just like random thought, right? It
Yeah.
comes from somewhere. And I want to assure people in saying that a lot of our fears, of course, comes from childhood, right?
Mhm.
Traumas we've gone through, behaviors that we have seen. But at some point in time, that fear was okay. It protected us from something. It has served us in the past. And that's why it's so difficult to pull away from, because then we feel feel like we are going to be vulnerable. Like a child who is a constant pleaser, right? I think especially for women, there's a lot of this saying, oh, she's such a people pleaser, she's such a people pleaser, right? But probably in childhood, that was the way she survived, being nice to everybody, being kind. So that was a survival method. But as you age and as you get that maturity, if you don't understand that that fear is no longer relevant in order to you to get to where you want to go, of course you're stuck in that. I have to be this, otherwise people will not love me and accept me. It comes back to that very low, the lowest level of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right?
Yes,
The need
definitely.
for safety, security, shelter, and food. And if we from very young childhood have been programmed to, I have to be kind in order to get those needs fulfilled in my life, otherwise I cannot sustain my existence, then it's the work around the healing of that is helping them understand that you can thank that fear from having protected you to now, but now you're grown up. You understand how to protect yourself, and help them see how can you protect yourself.
And the fear, in fact, is holding them back. It's
Exactly.
not letting
Yes.
them move forward. But I'm so glad you raised that. That's a great point. And it is International Women's Day today. So we will
Yes.
recognize women everywhere and how strong and amazing we all are. But
Yeah.
most women, and I can say this from my experience, just about everyone that I've ever talked to, was taught to, as a little girl, was taught to please, was taught
Yeah.
to, well, you don't do what, if you want to do something for yourself, that's selfish and self-centered. So you
Yes.
need to always be in a position where you are not being selfish and self-centered. So it's been a huge paradigm shift, certainly for me personally, and a lot of women I talk to, as we get to be mature women, and we go, hey, wait a minute now, And so I love the analogy of putting the oxygen mask on first, because if we don't
Sure.
look after our own self, and if we don't have our self-care, and I know this is right up Marie's alley, because this is what she talks about in her sessions. You have to have that. You have to have that. You have to give yourself that self-love and that self-care, or we're going to be depleted out of
Yeah.
it. So then we can't help anybody else. So
Yes.
so she says
I
more
just,
curious questions is great. She loves that.
yeah.
And she said, I'm overlaying this to a conversation I witnessed, and how questions could raise a question that might change the rigid dynamic and seeming judgments. Very true.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely.
One of my mentors, when I first started studying under him, it's like he constantly say, as a coach, you have to have complete, positively personal regard for another human being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you have that, you are meeting them without judgment. You're meeting them at that point where, and I think Brene Brown says this, that people are doing their very best at
Yes.
every given moment, right?
Yes.
None of us wake up in the morning and saying, I am going to go out and do this horrible act, right? We all
Right.
wake up in the morning and say, oh, today is going better, right? And then you go out there and life smacks you in your face. And if you are surrounding yourself in an area where life is just really, really hard, people do the most heinous things to get through the day. But underneath it all, there's still a human being. And so when you can say that I can respect you as a human being, I cannot, I cannot support your behavior
Yes. So
or
much
the
different.
way
Mhm.
that you have acted or conducted the way of living in your life. I cannot at any given time accept and understand that, but I can still appreciate you as a human being,
Yes. And
because I know at some point in time something went tremendously against you and your existence.
I think that's wonderful when we can remember that. We can remember this person. We may disagree with them. We may not like what they're doing, but they are a human being, and they on that day in that moment are perhaps doing the best that they possibly can do based on
Yeah.
their life. I know I listen to Marianne Williamson a lot, and she says something similar. She's like, "Well, I didn't wake up. I didn't think I was going to wake up today and be a jerk."
No.
I had this conversation, and the next thing I remembered, there was something coming out of my mouth that I was not happy about. So yeah, we're humans. We're humans,
Yeah.
and life
Yeah.
happens, and
Yeah.
we do the best that we possibly can do. And I think as coaches like yourself and Marie, and the work that I do, and all practitioners, people that are in this realm, we want to meet our clients where they are right now. We know that they want to move forward, but we need to meet them where they are, and then assist them. And with the transformation, definitely from a mindset point of view. I love that.
Yeah.
So, what does Marie say? It reminds me of the saying, "Wounded people wound others," and that is unfortunately, very, very true. That's what happens, and
Yeah.
often people don't know that they're wounded. Again,
Mm-mm.
they need to. There's work. There's always work to be done for us
Yeah.
to be better people. Do you
Yeah.
have another client story for us, perhaps?
Yeah. It actually, this was a gentleman that I've been working with, and he had a really hard time living with uncertainty. Needed to know everything that was going on. And one of one of the ways that held him back in his business was he was micromanaging,
Mm, mhm.
constantly being in people's faces, giving them responsibility to do a job, but then always checking in on them. And that's very demoralizing for a
Yes.
staff.
Yeah.
Never feeling that they are fully trusted. And so we were working on seeing what was really that need for him to be in control. Right? But it was working through those thoughts of saying, this again, it was a way for him to feel that if I can just control my world, nothing bad will happen.
Right. For
And
him
we
to
know
feel
how that
safe.
goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
for him to feel safe.
Mhm.
And it was quite an unpacking, but as it's done that, we just started slowly at saying, okay, how in your business can you create a feedback loop from your employees, rather than standing over their neck and see how they're doing it, but create metrics for you so you get that on a more regular basis and start building up that trust. Because it was about trusting. It was about being let down in the past, people that told him things that never happened,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
losing, both a lot of things and throughout his life. But for him, it was one of those things that a feeling that history would just constantly repeats itself, right?
Yeah, that was his
And
experience. So that was his only
yeah,
experience he had to weigh everything else against. So,
exactly.
mhm.
And
So
but in a
important.
company that is very demoralizing, and it really creates a very bad culture and often a huge turnaround,
Yes.
um, in people. And when he started, not only did he feel, oh, I actually have more information, I get more done, and my people are happier. So it raised his level of satisfaction and understanding that now I can start focusing on the things that will actually move my company forward.
Yeah, definitely. Because he wasn't taking all his energy and time doing the micromanaging.
Yes, yes.
And it is,
It is
yeah, as an
it's
employee,
like,
it is very demoralizing. I've had that happen to me. And
yeah,
and really, if you've been given the responsibility, if you have got the talent, and you've got whatever you got hired to do the job, if you're
mhm,
not being allowed to do the job, then you're
mhm,
not going to stay around long, for sure.
no.
Yeah.
And one way you can start looking at that for yourself is like, how many times have you said, oh, I might as well do it myself? I might as well do it myself. If it's going to be done right, I might as well do it myself.
Yes,
I
most
think,
definitely. And those of us that are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, there is only us. But if we can delegate to someone else, I know she's not hopped on today that I see, but we have our virtual assistant, Ingrid McKnight, and she's amazing. And I love what I can give her to do. Well, we
Yeah.
are almost at the bottom of our time here today. Marie's got one last comment here. As coaches, we have the opportunity to remember to be gentle. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And she heard us saying people don't leave the job, they leave the boss.
Oh, absolutely. No question about that.
About that. So Elsa, I'm just going to show where people can get a hold of you. This is just a ticker tape here. And so it's your LinkedIn link and we will actually, Elsa and I will go into the chat after the show is over, and we'll make sure that we put that in the chat and answer all your questions. I do a replay after this afternoon, Elsa. So I always like to go into the event after I do the replay. I do it about 2:00 Pacific time. And then because more people will pop on and make comments. And then Elsa's got a little gift. So it's do you want to explain it as Stress Busters? I love that. Stress Busters.
Yeah, we are also good at stressing ourselves out. And so I have 5 easy tricks or 5 easy steps. They're not tricks because they work. So it's 5 easy ways that you can lower your in the moment stress. It doesn't take a long time, but it's just a guiding you. How can you take that edge of it sometimes if you really get something done and quiet that subconscious chatter and really focus.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, I'm so delighted that you were able to join us today. We have a big ask. We're out to heal the world, and we want those of you who are watching the show and have hopped onto the show today, tell all of your contacts, tell all of your community that we have this amazing platform called the Healing Institute with our fabulous, wonderful, get to the root cause practitioners. Let people know that there is hope for them. And, our vision is to create a community of health practitioners that we customize the unique treatments for you. So it's not one size fits all. It's whatever you need that we will then create what needs to happen for you so that the healing that you need, you will actually get. Our motto is also service with love. And we are out to let people know that we exist, and definitely send this recording to all of your community and your contacts, and let people know that the Heal the World Show podcast, it's every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That would be 12 noon Eastern time. And we have amazing, wonderful guest co-hosts, and you got to meet another one today. Elsa Johnson, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me on here. It was a wonderful talk about my favorite topic.
All right, we'll see you next week on Heal the World Show podcast.